12 o'clock on your Tuesday afternoon now. Welcome in. It is the halftime show. It's our head along with you. Terry Ford will be along with me in just a moment, so place your bets accordingly. We'll see how late he is on today's show. He was actually on time yesterday because we were out at Hardy's out there in Piney Grove, and certainly appreciate everybody there for allowing us to be out there for what they were doing for Veterans Day. When I finally was able to escape our parking deck after the parade ended, it was nice to be out there. So certainly enjoying that. And again, appreciate everyone at Hardy's for allowing us to hang out for a little while yesterday and, just have a good time. We obviously talked plenty about, what happened on Saturday against Vanderbilt and the specifics of the game and, who stood out and everything like that. I think as we kind of move along in the week, it gives you an opportunity to look at a game like that from a bigger picture perspective. And, of course, Carolina won their sixth game of the year, got themselves to bowl eligibility. We've been talking about, the past couple of days. Oh, are you going to the ReliaQuest Bowl? Or are you going to go to the Music City Bowl, the Texas Bowl, whatever it may be? We're going to a bowl game. We know that, and that is plenty of reason, to be excited and to be thankful. And, yeah, bowl games don't mean what they used to, but getting to play that 13th game with, if you win these next 3 weeks, which, again, that's easier said than done, but you have the opportunity to potentially get yourself a 10th win in a bowl game, which is a significant landmark and something that I feel like, even if you don't get to a 10th win, if you can go have 8-9 wins this year, which very doable, it shows you that things have moved back in the right direction, right? A year ago, when this program went 5-7, it was a huge disappointment. Beamers talked about it, the players talked about it. Nobody saw that coming, because of how you ended the prior year. And the first 2 years, you took steps forward each time by overachieving both years. Saying, well, why can't year 3 be any different? If we're going off win totals, they should have been a 9-win team a year ago based on how the first 2 years went. Didn't happen. So it gets to a point where it says, okay, you're either now a program that is going to underachieve, or you're going to get yourself back on track the following year. And still 3 more games to play. But I'd say everything looks to be back on track. And out of the 3 games that you lost, as we talked about, 2 of them were close. One of them very controversially to LSU. Another one, you were a miracle heave away from winning that game. So you were right there fighting with 2 of the better teams in the SEC and 2 of the better teams in the country coming up short in those. So you feel good where you're at right now. And that Vanderbilt game was the second most impressive win of the year, 1 week after the most impressive win of the year. So you're picking up big victories. You're picking up key victories towards the end of the season. Your offense is igniting and coming along. And what we saw this past weekend at Vanderbilt really, I think, validated what people saw against A&M, right? Because if you watch football long enough, it's not uncommon for a team to have an out-of-character performance in one game where they're god-awful on offense, and one game things just click, and they put a bunch of points, put up a bunch of yards, but then it goes back to the norm the next week. And we saw, obviously, the best offensive performance, over 500 yards for the offense against A&M. And you say, okay, well, that's either what this team is now, or it was just a blip on the radar. They went out there against a very solid Vanderbilt defense on Saturday. Not the best, solid nonetheless, and went out there and had a similar type of performance. Yeah, they didn't put up 44 points, but they were very evenly balanced, running and passing the ball. Sellers, outside of the fumble, had a great game. Rocket Sanders ran the ball phenomenally. Josh Simon continues to be a great threat at receiver. Offensive line, still work in progress, but still, you feel really good about where this team is at right now. And when you look at these last 3 weeks, you got a Missouri team very banged up and one that's underachieved in a lot of ways this year. Wofford, that shouldn't be a problem. No disrespect to the Terriers, sorry. And then you have a Clemson team that, yeah, their record might look a little scary, but when they've played the 2 best teams in their schedule in Georgia and Louisville, they didn't look like they deserved to be in the same sport as those guys. And they got a game against Pitt this weekend on the road that they could lose pretty handily too. So a very manageable final 3 games. Now, you're not projected to win the game against Clemson, but that can obviously change between now and then. And you're going to a bowl game. So, yes, is it where you wanted to be, especially considering how tight those losses were to LSU and Alabama? No, but you're still in a pretty good space. And it's something, however this season ends, that you can build off of for 25 and going forward because, again, you got yourself back to, at minimum, where you wanted to be coming off of not making a bowl game last year by getting that 6-1 against Vanderbilt and knowing you have that 13th game coming up regardless.
Isn't it interesting, though? We come into the year, because this is just the way it goes. It's not here, it's everywhere. It's just who we are as fans. You come in to the season, we said, look, just get 6. Get 6, get back to a bowl game. It feels like you get everything back in the right direction after a 5-7 where you had a bunch of injuries and some miscalculations and all that other stuff, right? So now you got 6. And you're like, yeah, but could have 9. And yeah, should have right now 8. Should be higher in the college football playoff ranking if you win those 2 games. Heck, if you win one of them, where could you be?
Well, I think this should just be in the playoff rankings in general anyway, but...
It's just that human nature of, wow, what could have been. But you can't do anything about what could have been. You just can't. We all do. We all play the what could have been game about everything.
No, and look, if you would have told any fan back in July, hey, after 9 games, you're 6-3, and you look like a team that's capable of beating the next 3 opponents and getting to 9-3, you wouldn't have asked any more questions. You said, I'll take it. That's fine with me. Again, now knowing the context of how 2 of those games went, say, oh, well, I wish I could have had those back. But again, you're still in a good place.
Right. What could have been, and when I was back in my early 20s, that really rich girl from the really rich family who maybe I should have went out with, but I wasn't down with her. Maybe I should have been. What could have been? What could have been?
And we don't judge you for going to her Facebook on occasion and reminiscing.
Crying uncontrollably when I realize the things I could have had in my life that I don't? Yeah, pretty much. Oh, my God, she's got a helicopter. She's got a family helicopter. What have I done? I wonder, oh, God, what have I done?
Can't go back and change it.
You can't fix things. You can't fix that. You can't fix the LSU game, the Bama game, and I can't fix that.
No matter how much we try and help you.
That's right. Tara, why do you keep that whiskey in your office? Long story.
The years of therapy.
Yes. That I can't afford to pay for because I didn't go for the rich girl with the money that I really wasn't into. Anyway, so, look, you went over it perfect. Missouri is limping in here. They've been underachieving and underwhelming all year. They've got injury issues at quarterback. You know, they've got explosive toys and pieces they've forgotten how to use on offense. Defensively, they're fine, but they're not wow. This is a beatable football team coming in here Saturday. South Carolina's better. Let's just get this out of the way. Does that mean they're going to win? Of course not. Missouri, Eli Drinkwitz has had South Carolina's number, whether it's at Missouri, App State, whatever, right? So there's no guarantee you're going to win. But on paper, you're the better team. Obviously, you should handle Wofford pretty easy and unload the bench in that game. Everybody should get a play or a taste, or Cocky might be playing quarterback in the fourth quarter.
That's the game where everyone's mama gets to take the picture and video of them in the uniform, and we all feel good about it.
Everybody's got dirty gear because they all participated.
That's right.
And the Clemson game, again, you hit it perfect. In Clemson's 2 games against real teams, it didn't look that good. Matter of fact, got whooped. One of them was in their house. So this sets up pretty well for South Carolina. The Gamecocks most likely should be 8-4 rolling into Clemson.
Should be.
7-4 going into Clemson. 8. Yeah.
8-3 going into Clemson.
8-3. I'm sorry. Yeah. Where am I getting 4? 8-3 going into Clemson.
That's why she didn't like you, because you weren't good at math.
Stupid at math. Jeez, I was a moron. No, she liked me. I just didn't like her back. Because
one of those cases.
I was at an age where other things were more important than her family's net worth.
Sure.
When it came to my dating life.
You wish someone had just slapped you in the face real quick and said, "Hey, Rolls Royce, house in the hills,
idiot, hotter girl driving a Vega. What is wrong with you?" Anyway,
you turned out well. Never mind.
You know what? Good, you stopped yourself. Yeah, I told my 2 youngest, my youngest son and daughter, net worth. Firstly, when they're going out with somebody, what's the net worth of the family? And I get the eye roll.
Would they look down on where we live?
Yeah. That's what I want. I want them to look at our stupid little house in the suburbs and go, ooh. That's what I want. I want them to go, oh, God, that's the servants' quarters in our compound. I don't want them to live in a house.
Yeah.
I want them to live in a compound.
No, and where's your main house? This is the main house. You're standing in it.
So, oh, God, I don't see your dishwasher. You have the kids. They're right in front of you. This thing is still set up well for South Carolina. And it's this season, honestly, look, coming off of what happened last year and coming into so many unknowns. Tyler, we rewind really quick. They had 2 starters coming back on offense.
Yep.
Rashawn Lee, Josh Simon. That's it. That was it. I don't really look at Casey Henry as a starter. He played 4 plays and was out. He was done last year. 2 guys who were starters who played substantial snaps coming back on the offensive side of the ball. Didn't know who the left tackle, right tackle was going to be. Didn't know who the guards were going to be. Knew Lee was going to play center, or maybe Lee was going to play guard and somebody else was going to play center. Who knew who the wide receivers were going to be? Had no clue. 0 idea who the wide receivers are going to be. Running backs, we hope it's Rocket Sanders. We want to see how he's doing health-wise. And, yeah, Lenore Sellers gave us a couple big plays in a limited role last year, but we really didn't know what he was going to be because he hadn't been a starter. Defensively, did you get enough guys in here to rush the quarterback and cause pain and suffering? Did you upgrade your linebacker room? Did you find somebody who can cover a slot? We haven't talked about covering the slot all year, Tyler.
Isn't it great?
I'm so happy. I was slotted out last year. So there were so many question marks for this football team. And we were going, just get back to 6. Remember, we were sitting here trying to figure out 6 wins.
Oh, sure. And what we thought about the teams on South Carolina's schedule made that tough back in June, July.
August, right?
I mean, Oklahoma's probably going to be pretty good. No. Kentucky, we'll see about them. No. Even Missouri is not as good as they're 6-2, but they're not as good as we thought they were going to be, or had the potential to be.
So it says 2 things. A, how much better this season has turned out than anyone could have hoped. And B, nobody knows anything in August. We're just talking because it's talking season.
And with how parity-filled college football has become now, it's getting hard. Like, we're getting to the point, like watching any NFL Sunday of football, there are guaranteed to be 2 or 3 results. You go, didn't see that coming. The Bears beat the Lions by 3 touchdowns. How'd that happen? Because it's such a parity-filled league.
I mean, the Saints on a long losing streak beating the Falcons?
Yeah, exactly. Like those kind of random things happen, but that's what the league is and what it's always been.
I wanted to pick on you because your Falcons, heck, my Ravens have lost to the 1-win Browns, the crappy Vegas Raiders, and everybody looks at the Ravens, one of the best teams in the NFL.
I know. It's crazy. But college football, I don't know if we're ever going to get quite to that level where it just happens every single week, but this season's been full of that, where you say, okay, well, I think Alabama's good. Well, they lost to Vanderbilt. Okay, I think whoever's good, Miami's good. Well, they just lost to Georgia Tech. It just happens.
And now the other part of this is because of the transfer portal and because of NIL, it's made this even crazier. And put this in your head. We looked at Florida State last year, played for the college, played to try to get in the college football playoff, and really should have been in the college football playoff. They were hosed.
Yep.
They have 1 win.
And they just cleaned house.
That tells you what this is about. All right, college football playoff poll will be out tonight. We'll get into that, some bowl projections for South Carolina. And we're going to dig back into those Pro Football Focus and some deep dive numbers and take a look back on Vandy one more day. It is the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. We are hanging here till 3 here on The Game. All right, coming up at 1 o'clock, like always during football season, Shane Beamer's Tuesday presser at 1 o'clock. Shane obviously will look back again on the Vandy win and then look forward to Missouri coming to town. What is this ridiculous trophy? I forget. Columbia. What is it?
Is there a trophy for this game, too?
I think it's a trophy game.
God, why? The Bonham Trophy's bad enough.
Bottom trophy's awful.
By the way, where did you see the Bonham Trophy after they beat A&M? Was that not on the table at the press conference?
Why wasn't it at the field? You make a great point.
Yeah.
If you watch like Paul Bunyan's axe or any of this stuff.
Yeah, they run over after the game. All them Big Ten trophies, the little brown jug, Paul Bunyan's axe, the Floyd of Rosendale. They run over and they are proud of that trophy, and they're kissing it and taking pictures with it and bringing it back to the locker room and celebrating with it. And you think anybody did anything with the Bonham Trophy? I didn't see the Bonham Trophy anywhere in Williams-Brice Stadium.
It'd be great to go to the individual Gamecock football players and say, hey, you know what trophy you guys just won by beating A&M? And see if any of them even know what the hell a Bonham Trophy is.
We get a trophy for that?
Do we get one individually? Do we all get our own? Just like the Stanley Cup, do we spend a day with the Bonham Trophy?
Do you even know what the Bonham Trophy looks like?
No. No, I do not.
Hold on.
I've heard the story of why there's a Bonham Trophy, or the origin of it, or who this Bonham dude was, but never seen the trophy.
It is Bonham. He is riding a horse. It's kind of rearing back, and it looks like he's shooting a pistol in the air. I mean, it's a cool-looking trophy, just from the standpoint of cool-looking trophies, but, yeah, the value of what it means to, like, that thing was sitting in a broom closet at A&M, right?
Right.
They probably forgot to bring it, to be honest with you.
That's what it was. Hey, did you get the trophy? Thought you got it. Oh, man, I left it in the closet.
Do you remember a couple years ago when they put Central Florida and UConn together in a rivalry, and they called it civil conflict?
Yes.
And they made that stupid trophy that got left on the bench after the game.
So funny. It was so dumb. I loved it. It was so dumb. It was entertaining.
And the only reason they call it civil conflict is because you can fit both their names in there, and like you capitalize those letters.
Yes.
So somebody in a marketing room somewhere was so proud of themselves at them point the AAC. Obviously, UCF's now in the Big 12. Somebody was so proud of themselves for that. Guys, look at how you write this out.
Oh yeah.
See, but why do they hate each other? Well, they don't, but it sounds cool, right?
Yeah. I like it.
Rivalries are supposed to be between teams that dislike each other.
Yes, you can't manufacture rivalry.
And most rivalries were established in 1897.
Well, the UConn Central Florida one was established in 2018.
Yeah. Something like that. You can't just make rivalries out of thin air.
Right. You can't hey, let's have a rivalry. Okay. What do you want to do? I don't know.
Hey, I was thinking maybe I hate you and maybe you hate me back. How's that sound?
So why don't we just take the letters in our schools and make up a name of something and make it a rivalry? Okay. It's all dopey. It's just all so dopey. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head. We are rolling up until 3 on the game. All right, so South Carolina, they will be in the college football playoff rankings, probably between 20 and 25. People use the BCS computer rankings to do the college football playoff rankings now, and if you looked at that, South Carolina's 23rd.
Yep.
In those BCS rankings. So my guess is they will pop in the bottom part of the top 25. And the way you move up in these rankings, we talked about it last week, Tyler. How do you do it?
Just keep winning.
Yeah, just keep winning.
And I'm assuming if Missouri was good enough to be 24 last week, they're probably still going to be in the top 25. So another chance to beat a ranked team this weekend. By the way, it's the Mayor's Cup that they fight for.
Yeah, I knew there was something. Because they're both cities called Columbia. Uh-huh.
That has more standing than the Bonham thing.
Yeah.
Hey, this one guy from the Alamo is from South Carolina. Let's make a trophy about it.
Make a trophy. See, I think the Mayor's Cup would be more fun if the two mayors MM8 or WWE.
That's right.
Put them in a pit.
I'm for it.
Hey, ready? No holds barred match, like Mankind and The Rock back in the day.
Yeah.
Whoever climbs out first wins the trophy. How bad would that be?
I'd be entertained.
Oh, absolutely, I'd be entertained.
Or, we can just make Shane and Eli fight each other.
No, Shane would totally take that goober.
Well, Eli would go tattle and like run and tell somebody so the
We
fight wouldn't
stand
happen.
on business, Shane.
You know, I hope if Beamer can get over the hump this weekend over the Drinkwitz thing, I hope he says something to him after the game. Just something sly. You know what I mean? Just give him a taste of his own medicine.
It'd be so good. It really would be. It's like, before I got here and started to watch the Eli Drinkwitz thing closer, because I knew of him, he is all those things we make up that he is.
Well, for
just annoying.
Up until last year, he was so irrelevant, you didn't pay attention to him.
No.
They were a 500 team. Mm-hmm. We laughed when he got that extension after another 500 season. Like, okay, sure. And, he's doing cartwheels because they signed a 2-star prospect a couple years ago. He was irrelevant. And give him credit. They had a good season last year, but when he finally got that spotlight on him, he's just gone mad with power.
Yeah, he's that guy that was picked last all the time and everything. And now we talk about, all of a sudden he hit the lottery.
Yeah. And again, give him credit. He's beaten South Carolina every chance he's gotten.
I know. That's the annoying part.
If you get him this weekend, it's going to feel good.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What if they dump water on Shane on the sideline by getting Missouri? Fans will storm the field. Finally beat Missouri.
Well, no, because then he'd say, oh, we're good enough where people want to storm the field against us. So you don't want to give him that.
That's why you can't make him feel like what he's not. So hopefully this losing streak to Eli Drinkwitz and the losing streak to Missouri both get knocked out this Saturday. All right, so South Carolina bowl projections. Mark Schleybaugh, Kyle, I always mess up his name, Bongora. I think that's it. Bonagura, Kyle Bonagura.
Sure.
There's an A in there. Kyle Bonagura and Mark Schleybaugh updated their bowl projections. Both Schleybaugh and Bonagura include South Carolina in the ReliaQuest Bowl, former Outback Bowl in Tampa. They will meet up. I hope this doesn't come true. Nothing against the Outback Bowl. I love a good steak. Not Iowa. Please, God, not Iowa. Not Iowa. I don't want to watch paint dry for 3.5 hours. Not Iowa.
Now, compared to last year, like we said, they may as well be 2019 LSU
That's true.
on offense.
That's true. They're actually, what the funny thing is about Iowa? They got rid of Farron's kid as the OC. Their offense is better, but their overall team record's worse.
Isn't it crazy?
They're all going, see, we missed the kid.
They found out that their scoreboard actually had a 4 on it.
Totally wiped out everybody. All right, so Iowa's in that bowl projection there for the Outback, or the former Outback ReliaQuest in Tampa. Jerry Palm, I'm not down with this one. If South Carolina keeps winning, the Texas Bowl, which is in Houston, Jerry Palm from CBS has the Gamecocks in Kansas State. Now, Kansas State's go football team. That would be interesting.
I feel like that would be a evenly matched game because I feel like those two teams and Kansas State's ranked right now ahead of South Carolina, obviously, and I feel like that'd be actually a pretty intriguing matchup.
Brett McMurphy, ReliaQuest Bowl as well against Iowa. Music City Bowl for Steve Lassen from The Athletic taking on Nebraska.
It's intriguing.
With their tight ends coach, Marcus Satterfield.
I would say it would have been more intriguing if Satterfield hadn't just gotten demoted. Are we now cheering against Iowa to lose all their games so we don't see them in a bowl?
Yes. Ugh. So we got a little...
we could have a punt off.
Oh, God. Kai Kroger would actually have to have somebody to deal with.
The greatest punter of all time, Tory Taylor, is in the NFL now.
True.
So
that's true.
We'll have to settle for whoever the guy is there, but they're still they are punting you.
They are. There's no doubt about it. We put a poll question up to go with this whole thing with the bowl projections. Poll question today: now that the Gamecocks are bowl eligible, where would you want to go see them play? You're going to see them play a bowl game. Tampa, Nashville, Vegas, Houston. Right now, Vegas, to the shock of no one, 36%.
By the way, do you know what time the Vegas Bowl is?
Isn't that night tilt?
It's a 10:30 kick on a Friday night.
Eastern
time.
Nice. Vegas ahead. Nashville, Tampa tied at 31. Houston got 2%. 10:30 kick. It's still worth being at the Bellagio. Halftime show. Just in case you woke up, we'll tell you what's going on in the sports world next. Here with Terry Ford and Tyler Head on the game in Columbia, Florence, and Myrtle Beach. We're talking about Shane Beamer's presser coming up at 1 o'clock here on the game in Columbia, 107.5 The Game. Also, just in case you woke up, you're like, what happened in the sports world? I haven't cracked up on my phone or the internet. What's going on, fellas? We'll start off with this, was what happened last night between Miami and the Rams.
Tua keeps, fires, touchdown, Miami, Tyreek Hill. Dolphins spread them out.
Dolphins win 23-15 in L.A. Probably more Dolphin fans there than Ram fans anyway.
It really sounded like that, and it's crazy how neither LA team, especially the Chargers, rarely have a home field advantage.
The Chargers are playing on the road 17 games a year.
Yeah, pretty much.
I remember when the Rams were in the NFC Championship game a couple years ago against the 49ers. It was a 49er home game.
Yeah, that's how it usually. There's not. Look, you took the team away from the city for nearly 30 years, and all the people that cared about them stopped caring about them or moved away or whatever it may be, and you can't just set them back in the middle and expect people to suddenly be diehard fans again.
It was weird. L.A. is a weird town about the NFL. L.A. is a Southern Cal town. They're about Southern Cal football. The Rams, I mean, even though the Rams have been there a long time, it was never like this passion, right? And then they moved out of the city, and it was always like a weird thing. I always joked that the Rams left and no one in L.A. knew. It's like,
we don't have a team anymore? What happened?
Dude, when they leave?
Yeah.
Man.
12 years ago.
Oh, okay, I'm going to go back skateboarding.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a half pipe.
Is it Southern Cal, Lakers, Dodgers? Mm-hmm. That
absolutely.
Top three?
The Rams are ahead of the Kings, but the Chargers aren't. I mean,
the Rams are just barely over the Clippers.
Yes, barely. So it's just not. It's just not. I know it sounds weird because the NFL is so big and everywhere, and that's the number 2 media market in the country. That's the only reason the NFL is in LA.
Oh, totally. No, of course.
That's it. They left St. Louis, which even though St. Louis is a hockey baseball town, still had more passion for the Rams than LA does.
They cared about them.
So that's the only reason you're seeing this. And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to the team and the league. And the Rams have been good. That's the thing about it. It's not like the Rams have sucked. The Rams aren't the Panthers. They won a Super Bowl a few years ago.
And
they've
their
been a
home
good
stadium.
Football team. Yes. And that was a road game, too. Anyway, so it's just a weird thing. Dolphins, they're a better team with Tua. They haven't been able to get over the hump the last couple weeks. Dolphins finally get a W. Playoff, they're on a resuscitator for the playoffs. But you can see the difference. And, all the beating up of Tua Tagovailoa, which I thought was kind of asinine. Is he going to sit there and dazzle you with 80-yard throws? No, that's not him. But he's really accurate. He gets the ball out quick. And you see how much better the Dolphins are. All of a sudden, Mike McDaniel's offense looks pretty good again.
Yeah, it was tailor-made for Tua. And no disrespect to Skylar Thompson, but he can't run it the same way. And this offense is predicated on getting the ball to playmakers and letting them use their abilities to make plays, which, again, Tyreek Hill, perfect example of that.
Jalen Waddle, A-Chain, they got dudes who can do stuff, and they're very fast while they do it. Mostert, you just have to get the trigger man back, and they've got him back now. And, again, it's still not clicking on all cylinders, but you can see how much better it is. Dolphins beat the Rams, who somehow are still hanging around at 4-5 because Sean McVay's a really good coach, and Matthew Stafford is a guy that's going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. They're young all over the place now. They can't stay healthy at wide receiver.
Well, and that's the thing. Matt Stafford is no longer in the position where he can just put a team on his back and carry it. He's still a very solid NFL quarterback, but he's not the MVP level guy from a few years ago. He needs help.
Yeah, this game was fine. It wasn't a dud. It was okay. You could watch it and be entertained to a point. So that was all right last night. Miami won 23-15. All right, also, just in case you woke up and you're like, what's going on in the sports world? Yeah, I'll get to that one in a second. No, let's get to it now. This thing at Florida with Todd Golden, if you haven't heard, I'm going to try to make this as correct as possible. I'm going to go right to the story. Oh, well, where's that? I got 70 tabs, Tyler. Here it is. Okay. So, Todd Golden last night coached, by the way.
Yes, he did.
Coached Florida men's basketball.
He is not. He has been with the program through the weekend. Nothing has changed as of right now.
Okay, so Golden is in the middle of a school inquiry into sexual harassment and stalking allegations. There's been a Title IX involvement in this whole thing. Basically, according to the school newspaper, Golden allegedly took photos of women walking or driving, sent those pictures to the subjects involved. Alleged stalking incidents also include Golden showing up at locations where he knew the women would be. There's also claims of unwanted sexual advances on Instagram, requesting favors, and also sending photos and videos of certain body parts.
While on team trips.
Yes. Now, again, you're always innocent until proven guilty. But this stuff in today's world typically has a paper trail.
Yes.
Or a technology trail,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it does. And, reading through some of the initial investigations, there are records to show of some of the stuff that he did on Instagram and unfollowing accounts and things like that. So there's a lot piled up against him at this point in time.
Right. So let's go down the road first that he's guilty. Let's go down that road.
Okay.
He's done, obviously.
Yeah,
You're just done,
no,
man.
you're done. They fire you for cause. You don't get a buyout, and you're publicly shamed from ever coaching, at least at this level again.
And Todd Golden, and if he's not guilty, and all of a sudden a bunch of girls are conspiring against him to ruin his life, I mean, would that suck? But that's a lot of conspiring, man.
It is, and if that were true, that's a whole nother situation that would need to be handled in a different way. But again, innocent until proven guilty. But there's a lot here. We'll say that.
Let's get to Todd Golden post game. Then I want to get to the crowd. Let's get to Todd Golden post game. His statement about the allegations.
Hey, obviously, I assume you guys have a lot of questions. I just want to start by saying, I kind of expressed my statement on Saturday, and obviously would love to be able to give you more, but that's all I can give at this moment. And so, any questions in regards to the ongoing inquiry, I'm just refer you to my statement on Saturday. And I apologize that I can't comment any more than that.
Of course, that's what he's going to say. And you know what else, too? He brought his family last night.
Yeah.
Really?
So for those, he's married and 2 kids, I think.
Yeah, married with 2 kids.
So, and again, if this is all true,
if it's true, that's another level of slime. That, hey, wife and kids, let me parade you out there you're showing support to dad and your hubby. The other one here is the crowd. And I'm reading from the story, ESPN. Golden received a rousing ovation, one of the loudest of the night from the fans.
I heard it. He didn't blow the roof off the place, but it was a good amount of cheers.
I guess I get the innocent until proven guilty. And I get he's the basketball coach of your favorite team. But has anyone read these allegations? I mean, this is massive creeper dude like nobody's business. And look, I'm not a morality guy because, we've all got skeletons. But when you take a job, I say this all the time, when you take a job coaching at a university, there's certain things you have to give up. One is chasing a lot of co-eds around when you're married.
Right.
You can do that. Feel free. Just don't be the head coach. It's that simple because you are coaching and mentoring and molding young men and women, and you're also supposed to be some type of compass for them moving forward in their lives.
But people overlook things when you win. This is a team that was in the tournament last year, came off of a pretty good season overall, and I know it's non-conference games, but off to a 2-0 start now.
I'm like, wow. Would you cheer this guy if he was in your neighborhood?
I would not.
And you found this stuff out? What if he was walking around sending these type of pictures to your daughter? Fans are funny. That's what's been going on since you were sleeping. Here on the Halftime Show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, Firehouse Up, text. The hour is next, 803-404-6100. It is the Halftime Show. We go till 1, then Shane Beamer takes over the show for a bit. Shane's Tuesday presser. That's all coming up on the game. All right, again, Shane Beamer presser coming up here in about 10 minutes on the game here in Columbia at 107.5. 6:30 tonight on the game in Columbia and the game in Myrtle Beach. Men's basketball. South Carolina and Towson. 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock tip from CLA. Again, that is tonight on the game in Columbia and Myrtle Beach. What you got there on the old Firehouse Sub text line? 803-404-6100.
So a couple people, Jeff and Nameless Texter, have informed me that the Bonham Trophy is apparently kept at the Alamo for some I mean, obviously in reference to the Alamo, and Bonham was the guy from the Alamo. But, for trophy games, you're supposed to play for the trophy. So, the winning... Yeah, because then it's just a relic. You're supposed you win a trophy, right?
You take it with you.
I've got it. It's my trophy. I'm going to take it until you can beat me again. So, what's the purpose of keeping it at the Alamo if it's what you're playing for?
Or if you want to keep one at the Alamo, don't you make two?
And maybe they do, but again, I went back and watched the broadcast of the game and never saw it shown. And usually, hey, we're here for the Floyd Rosendale. I'm standing next to the trophy now, and it was made back in whatever year by this guy up in the woods or something like that. You give some kind of history behind the thing. It didn't happen, and I highly doubt that's going to happen this weekend either.
But to be fair, in the post-game presser after the win over A&M, first thing Shane said was how excited he was about getting the Bonham Trophy, right?
If you search the transcript of Beamer and every player that spoke, the name Bonham did not come up a single time.
Unless Shane went, man, I love John Bonham when he played drums for Zeppelin.
You would have a better chance at that, I feel like, personally.
You think Shane's going to open the 1 o'clock presser? Really, really tingling battle for the mayor's trophy?
I don't think so. Is he aware that there's a mayor's cup? Because, I think about, in-state rivalries, right? I think about Georgia and Georgia Tech. Mm-hmm. They play for the Governor's Cup, and after the game, the winning team, the governor comes into the locker room of the winning team and presents the Governor's Cup to the head coach. So, you're playing for the trophy. It's yours until the other team can meet you. There's a there's a formality to it, right? Mm-hmm. This doesn't have that. And again, this was something that, because Missouri didn't, came in 12 years ago, hey, they have the same city name. Would it be cool if they played for something?
It's just, it's so artificially silly that you have to laugh about it.
Exactly.
Because it's just, come on. Oh, anyway, appreciate the information for us on the Firehouse Sub text line 803-404-6100 as we
learn something new every day.
Find out they keep it at the Alamo. How many millions of people do you think come to the Alamo every year to see the Bonham Trophy? I can probably get that out with a straight face.
I'm guessing not many. On the list of things that I'm attempting to see at the Alamo,
is the Bonham Trophy coming up at all?
I would imagine it's one of those things, and let me get a picture of it here. So I'm just looking at the display of it here, where it sits, I guess, at the Alamo, and it's just, on a table. It's got a long inscription on it. I can't really read what it says. Okay, it talks about the trophy and talks about who he was, but it doesn't have a record of the games on it, I don't think. So if you're just a random visitor from Connecticut, there's nothing about this that says, oh, well, this is currently in the possession of South Carolina.
Okay, I went to thealamo.org. What's at the Alamo? The Long Barrack Alamo exhibit, Phil Collins collection, because they loved him from Genesis. Living History Encampment, the Travis Letter, Palisade, Alamo Church, the Gardens, Sculptures, Alamo Plaza Live Cam, which might be cool. The Alamo Bronze Models. I don't see the John.
You didn't Command F and see if Bonham's on there anywhere?
No Bonham. Well, what's at the Alamo? Interesting. So, anyway. Glad they're keeping it there for so many people to come see it.
Yeah. Where would you keep the Mayor's Cup if it had to be at a neutral location? Get like Zestos here or something.
Bucky's in Florence. I don't know. It's just, this whole thing is just interesting.
Well, I hope they win it.
Yeah, I do too. Be nice to beat Missouri, get that losing streak off your back, get the losing streak to Eli off your back, and to get that Mayor's Cup, baby. Yes! Woo! Shane Beamer's presser coming up here in just about 5 minutes here on the Halftime Show on 107.5 The Game in Columbia. And we'll jump into more football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors, as we shed a tear for Marcus Satterfield. We talk so much about the Nest on Gadsden and the Vista, and we just want to give you a what's up and a heads up. If you really want to do some things to your home, make some changes, whether it's, new fixtures and new lighting, maybe you want to put a nice cool tub in the bathroom, maybe you want new appliances, whatever the case. You need to make the first phone call to the Nest at 803-978-2025. Why the Nest Terror? Easy. First of all, almost 7 years of experience at the Nest. And they're going to put someone with you who's an expert in whatever you're looking for. Like, for example, appliances, you go to Graham. Graham's been doing this forever. He'll walk you around the showroom, show you all the vast array of appliances. They'll sit down, go over your budget, your goals, your vision for your home, and they will make it happen for you at the Nest in the Vista, Gadsden, 803-978-2025. Make that call, set an appointment, go in, prepared to be wowed at the Nest in the Vista. All right, we're going to go to Shane Beamer in just a minute. Hear the coach's presser after this wonderful intro.
Now, let's hear from the coach. Shane Beamer's press conference, sponsored by Crescent Construction, the official roofer of the Gamecocks.
Okay, thanks for coming out. I know it was yesterday, but just wanted to say Happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans across the USA. So grateful for them and the sacrifices that they have made, continue to make to give us the freedoms that we have here in this country. So we've got a lot of family members of our football team that are veterans, former or active military as well, and so grateful for them. So God bless them and this country, and appreciate all they do for us as well. Excited to be back home in Williams-Brice Stadium, a top 25 matchup between two SEC teams as well. Last SEC game of the year as well. No, Gamecock Nation will be excited about being back in Williams-Brice. I guess it's technically a day game when it starts, but with the time change, by the time we get to halftime, it'll certainly be dark and a night game. So I know it'll be electric over there in Williams-Brice, and we need it to be as well. Really good Missouri team coming in here. I think Coach Drinkwitz has done a great job this season. Obviously, they've had some injuries, but at the end of the day, they're nationally ranked and they're 7-2, and they've won 18 out of their last 22 games going back to last season. So may not always be pretty, but they're finding ways to win, and there's something to be said for that. Offensively, obviously, I know they've had some injuries at the quarterback position, but Brady Cook's a fantastic player. Obviously, what he did last season and what he's done this season speaks for itself. Drew Pine, who played the game last week against Oklahoma, is somebody I've got a lot of respect for. His uncle played for my dad at Virginia Tech and was an All-American. When I first got hired at Oklahoma, the very first recruiting trip that Lincoln Riley sent me on was to go see Drew Pine in New Canaan, Connecticut. He was our top quarterback that we were recruiting at Oklahoma. Kyler Murray was our quarterback that upcoming season, and Drew was the only guy that we had offered a scholarship to that Lincoln was after, so he can play. And we didn't get him. He went to Notre Dame and then has bounced around a little bit, but he's tough, competitive, athletic, and can make throws, and you see him get better with experience as well. Two new running backs that have come in through the portal. They both complement each other well. Offensive line is really talented. They were really talented last year, and they've added a transfer from Oklahoma and a transfer from SMU as well, so they're big and athletic on the offensive line, and they have arguably the best receiving core in this conference. When you talk about Luther Burden, who will be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft, and Theo Weiss, who took over that game last week against Oklahoma in the fourth quarter. You know, Theo's been around football for a while. He and I spent 2 years together at Oklahoma as well, so he's played a lot of football. And yeah, Mookie Cooper and some of those other guys in there. It's a really dangerous and explosive offense. Defensively, lost a lot of really good players off last year's defense. I think 5 of them got drafted, 3 in the first 3 rounds, including a first-round pick as well. But they look the same up front. They're really good on the defensive line. They have size. Brought their one starter back from last season. They've added a starter from Michigan State who's a really good player, defensive tackle that came in from Florida that's a really good player, size and athleticism at linebacker, and once again, a really big secondary as well. And then special teams, they've always done a good job as well. You know, they would tell you that their season changed in a lot of ways last season against Kentucky on a fake punt for a touchdown as well. I know Eli has, talked about the importance of that play, and you see Burden back there returning kicks, and they've got a history of, onside kicks and fakes and things like that as well. So big challenge for us this week. We need to certainly coach and play a lot better than we have against these guys since I've been the head coach, but our guys are excited. Obviously coming off a great win over Vanderbilt. It's back to work on Sunday, which is what we did, and need to have a great week of practice this week to play a really good, really well-coached, and really talented Missouri team. Questions? Hey, David?
Shane, you mentioned Drew Pine and everything, and I guess tomorrow with the availability report is when we'll find out maybe a little more about Brady Cook's status. Once you find out, will that change preparation in any kind of significant way?
Not really. They do what they do, and it's line up, run outside zone. with the running backs, and it's drop back and find ways to get the ball to Burden and Weiss. And no matter who the quarterback is back there, they're going to do that. Both quarterbacks can run. Pine had a quarterback run the other night. That was a huge play in the Oklahoma game for a first down. Brady Cook obviously is a really talented runner as well. So other than just, Cook being a little bit more experienced than Pine, that would be the only thing. But Pine is a guy that's been around football for a while too now, so this isn't his first rodeo. So no, it really doesn't change anything. For us, it's going to be, we got to figure out a way to slow down this outside zone scheme that they run very well, and figure out a way to keep number 3 and number 1 in check.
I guess you sort of alluded to it a second ago, but with playing Missouri over these last few years, has there been any consistent theme in these games against them, or is it just kind of a...
I would say they've kicked our butts physically, just to be completely frank. If you go back and look at sack totals, our ability to sack their quarterback and their ability to put pressure on our quarterback, you look at rushing yardage plus our ability to stop the run, we've been nowhere near good enough. And it's not just O-line, D-line, but we haven't been good enough on both sides of the ball to do the things that we need to do to win the football games. You guys have heard me talk about what we call our plan to win, the 6 things that we have to do every single Saturday in order to win football games. So if you take those 6 things and multiply them by 3, that's 18 things over the last 3 years. And I went back and looked yesterday. We've lost 15 of those in our 3 games against Missouri. So the only things that we've done well to win football games is one year we outscored them in the 4th quarter, but it was because we were behind. One year we had less penalties than they did. And one year we did a decent job of stopping the run in regards to how many yards per carry they have. So we've just got to perform better. We haven't done a good enough job, and give Missouri credit for that. They've been better, and a lot of that has been our inability offensively to run the football against these guys.
Back in September, Juju was saying that this team was very aware of the outside noise in the preseason surrounding this team, and how that noise was very motivating for them. And now that we're going into November, the pendulum is swinging a bit, and the talk surrounding this program is very positive. The hype is building. People talking about expectations. How far can this team go? How do you talk to your team now about dealing with that side of the noise as you guys are in a pivotal part of the season?
Yeah, don't listen to it. It's easier said than done. Let's be real. The last time we got ranked, we didn't play worth a crap the next week, and I would hope that a lot of our guys remember that. And I'm not saying that it was because we sat around patting ourselves on the back because we were ranked, but we need to make sure that we focus on what's important, and what's important is preparing to play a really physical and good Missouri team. So we talked about it this morning. I mean, we weren't listening and being motivated by anything before, and we shouldn't be doing it now as well. Let's worry about what we can control. But I realize that we only have them for 4 hours a day in this building, so the other 20 hours, everybody on campus. So everybody on campus, please don't be patting them on the back and telling them how amazing they are right now. Please don't be talking about rankings and bowl games and everything else. Let's talk about Missouri. But the other 20 hours that they're outside this building, they've got people telling them how great they are right now. But we've got a mature group. They're very hungry, and nobody's goal was to win 6 wins or win 6 games and be in the top 25. We all had higher expectations going into the season as well. No one else did. I realize that, but this group had very high expectations for themselves going into 2024. It's good to see that we've been able to accomplish a lot of things already, but there's still a lot more for us to accomplish. But we can't take a step back this week either with not performing and playing well.
2 things, Coach. I know last week I asked about perimeter blocking, and you said ask me next week because that's going to be a key element to the Vanderbilt game. So I'll follow up on that, as well as ask about what your secondary is going to have to do. You mentioned the Missouri receivers being one of the best cores in the conference or the country. What are they going to have to do, especially since you've had some injuries back there, to be able to kind of limit what they do on offense?
Yeah, you've got to tackle. I mean, Burden and Weiss, they're going to get their catches. It'd be great if I looked at the stat sheet after the game Saturday night. They didn't have any catches. Is that realistic? Probably not. What we've got to do is do a really good job tackling. It's really impressive watching those 2 guys, what they do once they catch the ball, the yards after contact. They get the ball to Burden in a lot of different ways, whether it be handing the ball off to him on a 4th and 1 the other night against Oklahoma on a jet sweep, or they get in an unbalanced formation and he's off the ball to the field and they motion him in, they motion him out, and he runs an out and up for a 50-yard touchdown. I mean, they just find different ways to get the ball in his hands, or getting a bunch set into the boundary against Vanderbilt and run a naked boot and drag him all the way across the field and nobody can run with him, and he catches it and runs it in for a touchdown. So we've got to limit what he does and what Theo does with the ball in their hands after they catch it, which is easier said than done. Plus Weiss is a really big receiver also, so he'll catch a ball, then he does a really good job of getting vertical, and he's a hard guy to bring down. He's a twitchy, shifty, tall, big athletic guy. So that would be the biggest thing is, let's limit their catches, but when they do catch the ball, make sure we're limiting what they do yards after the catch and after contact. And then his perimeter blocking, it was okay against Vanderbilt, if that was the other question as well. Needs to be better.
Hey, Shane. Gamecock rushing numbers way up this year. Is it having a healthy Rocket? Is it Lenoris's dual threat ability? Is it the offensive line? What's leading to this?
I'd say it's all the above. Certainly Rocket and Oscar and Juju and all of those running backs are good backs, and they're doing a nice job. I saw some stat this morning that Luke Day gave me about Rocket's yards after contact last week was the highest in the nation, which I believe it. He's breaking tackles, and he's a hard guy to bring down. So certainly you look at who's carrying the ball. Anytime you have a quarterback with the ability to run the football, it's going to make your rushing offense, I don't want to say necessarily better, but have a chance to be a lot more productive because of the element that brings. Offensive line-wise, I think those guys are doing some really good things. You've got, Josiah and Tree playing at left tackle that are young guys, but Case and Henry is doing a nice job as a right tackle, and Vershawn's an older guy that's been around here longer than I have, and the fact that he came in, 2020, and then Kamar and Travon and Torricelli at the guard position are really good football players right now. So it's a good group. We've been able to stay healthy. We've got continuity on there as well. Then I'd say some schematic things as well. Give credit to that offensive staff for what they've done from a schematic standpoint, whether it be going into the season, just, some new tweaks in the run game or things that we've added or adjusted during the year as well. I think we've just continued to get better each week, and it's experience, it's scheme, it's coaching, it's talent, it's all the above.
Hey, Shane, it seems like Josh Simon's really been heating up a lot recently. How do you assess his performance lately, and what's kind of changed for him? And do you try to continue to get him the ball more this weekend?
Absolutely. He's playing at a really high level right now, and he showed flashes of that last year, Jack. I mean, he was a guy we probably should have gotten the ball to him more last year. I mean, you saw some of the things that he did with the ball in his hands last season, but he's just a guy that, last year I think he was sidekick isn't the best word, but it was kind of Trey Knox, and then Josh was the guy that was working alongside Trey Knox, whereas Josh has taken over the mentality, mindset, responsibility of that room in so many ways, and doing a nice job in the run game. That's what I like. You guys see the ball in his hands when he's caught it. He's doing some really good things in the run game as well, and just playing with confidence. And he's a weapon in space as well. So it's good to see, and need him to continue to be better, and everybody else be better around him as well.
Kind of going back to the left tackle, you talked about the availability reports tomorrow, but with how well Tree played Saturday, do you try to get him a drive here and there anyway, even if Josiah's healthy? Do you try to get him in somewhere else? Well, how does that kind of go at left tackle if Josiah is back?
Yeah, we'll see where he is. We're optimistic on all those guys that weren't able to finish the Vanderbilt game, that we'll be able to get those guys back. Optimistic we'll get DeAndre Jules back this week as well. But regardless of Josiah's health, Tree came in and did some good things, and certainly need to keep him rolling. If Josiah is able to play, he's probably not going to be 100%. And Tree was a starter last year for however many games, 10, 11 games last season. So we got full confidence in him, and feel good about both those guys being in the game. They've both done some really good things for us, and proud of Tree and the way that he played when he came in last week.
the offense has been so efficient coming off the bye week. When you look back over these last 2 weeks, was there something in the bye week that you guys tweaked or figured out works well, or is it just, hey, everyone's doing their job a little bit better and that's creating a more efficient offense?
I think it's a little bit of everything. You look at the bye week and you say, okay, where are we struggling and why? How can we coach it better maybe? You look at what's not working and maybe let's do a little bit less of this. You look at, what's next. Are there some schematic things that we could do that we're not doing that could help us? So we did all that during the bye week. And, I think it's a little bit of that for sure, but I think it's a lot of it just experience. Rocket continuing to get, healthier and more in the flow. Lenoris, we've done a little bit more maybe called, not that we didn't call quarterback runs before, but probably a little bit more just called quarterback runs where there really isn't a read necessarily. It's you're going to carry the ball. We've done a little bit of that the last couple of weeks as well. And I think, I know y'all don't want to hear it, but it's true. We've got a lot of young faces that were playing on our offense early in the season, and we knew they would get better. And, people had the pitchforks out after the Old Dominion game, but we had a redshirt freshman quarterback. We had a true freshman left tackle. We had a true freshman wide receiver. We had a true freshman tight end, and then a bunch of new transfers around them that weren't here last year and some that weren't even here for spring practice. So you want it to look amazing from the get-go, but it doesn't always work that way. Our guys just continued to work and get better each week and have done some really good things. And we've done a better job, too. You look better statistically when you don't turn the ball over and you don't when you go 9 of 12 on third down, that allows you to be on the field a lot more, and those stats are going to go up when you play more plays, too.
Shane, following up on Rocket, in your conversations with him, does he feel like he's 100% close to being what he was in 22, or maybe even does he think that he's even surpassed that?
I haven't necessarily asked him. I would imagine if you asked him, he would probably say that he feels like it. He's worked really hard and to get his body in a position. I know how productive he was in 22 when we played him out there at Arkansas in the year that he had, and he looks a lot like that guy to me from my vantage point as well. And kudos to him, just the way that he's worked. You guys have heard me say it, I think, from January until literally now. He's in that weight room at 6:15 a.m. just getting extra work and doing exercises to not necessarily get stronger. He wasn't in there lifting. He was in there doing exercises to try and strengthen, parts of his body and get them in a better position to play. No necessarily weights, just stretches and mobility exercises and things like that he was in there on his own doing, and he was very committed to doing that. He stayed up here the whole month of May when he didn't have to, when everybody else had gone home, except for the offensive lineman, I guess. So he's just been very convicted to and driven to do the things that he needed to do to be a great player, and it's good to see him having the success that he's having right now because he's worked really hard for it.
Shane, it seems crazy to think about it, but 3 weeks from now, you're going to be signing a bunch of players, or you can sign a bunch of players. Do you like this earlier date, and how do you balance kind of the GM side of trying to navigate next year with, hey, we've got games to complete, and there's a big task ahead for us?
Yeah, it's a lot. I probably speak for a lot of coaches when I say that the month of December stinks. It's hard just because there's so much going on. Luckily this year there's going to be postseason play. You've got portal. You've got high school recruiting. You've got getting ready for postseason play. You've got the spring semester starting in January, right around the corner as well. There's a lot that happens in December. Worry about what you can control and what's important right now. To answer your first question, yes, I love the early signing because you go ahead and the whole point behind it was, in my mind, or at least in our meetings as head coaches in the SEC, the biggest thing with the early signing period was so those high school kids don't get messed over, lost in the shuffle, whatever, from a portal standpoint. So you sign your high school class, they're signed, and then the portal opens after that as well, which I think is great because there's going to be no David's a really good high school quarterback, but you're a transfer portal quarterback that just popped in the portal, and I'm going to sign you, and I'm going to call David and say, hey, sorry, bud, we can't take you. That doesn't happen anymore, or won't happen now because of the early signing period. So I like that aspect of it. Plus, it'll be different for us as coaches because we're not allowed on the road recruiting in the month of December this year, which that's never been the case. Normally it's you play Clemson, you're around the building all week, the next week, and then Friday hits, and boom, you're out recruiting, you're at state championship games, you're in homes. I mean, every freshman that's on our team right now, I think I was in their house or their high school over a 2-week span in December last year. It was lunch with Mason Love out in Kansas City, and then dinner with Dante Reno in the Northeast the same day, and then home that night. We can't go out on the road recruiting in December this year, which will be a little bit odd. So there's not going to be a home visit with high school recruits unless I go back and see their family in January or something when they're already here in school. So that'll be a little bit different. But I do like the early signing period. You get your high school class signed. You know that these guys are coming. They're locked in. You're not chasing them around for 3 weeks in December. Then the portal happens and you have a better understanding of what your roster is going to look like in 25 because you've already signed them. And then it's figuring out, I should have added this to the December conversations about who's going pro, who's not going pro, who's doing this, who's doing that. So you're bouncing a lot of balls in December, but being able to do the signing period early, I do like because it gets it, that's done. And then you can focus on 2025 in regards to portal and then you're really full speed ahead on your class of, what does that become? Class of 26, the guys that are juniors in high school right now, if that makes sense.
Hey, Shane, I know your team's success hasn't surprised you or anyone else in the building, but I'm curious, is there any one player, position group, or maybe aspect of the team that has pleasantly surprised you to this point?
I knew Kyle Kennard was good. I don't know if I knew Kyle Kennard was going to be just this good. And that's just full disclosure. I mean, I watched his tape. I mean, he had some really good plays at Georgia Tech, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like you just turned on a highlight tape and it's just 20 straight minutes of Kyle Kennard just sacking quarterbacks and stuff. There was some good stuff. I mean, I remember specifically watching Kyle play against Wake Forest last year and just seeing the explosion, the twitch, the bend, the athleticism, the strength, all the stuff that we're seeing right now. I remember seeing that and thinking, man, this guy's going to be great. Could be really, really great for us. But then I remember this past summer, I had a former NFL head coach that I was on the phone with back in July. I was on vacation down at the beach, and I had a former NFL coach that is not a coach right now, but I think he probably wants to get back to being in the NFL. And he was calling, hey, if I get back in the league next year, let me ask you about some of these guys. And he started talking about, what he thought a great portal pickup Kyle Kennard was as well. And it got me thinking, he sees the flashes of that too. So surprise maybe isn't a great word, but just seeing it's not a flash, it's like dominant every single Saturday. And very much like I was telling Rick with Rocket, just the way that Rockets work, Kyle's the same way. I mean, he's been on a mission since he got here in January. We give out our Student Athletes of the Week awards. We call them the Scholar Ballers, and he was a Scholar Baller this week because of what he's doing academically as well. He's really picked it up this semester and is on track to graduate in December. So he's really taken this opportunity that he has here at South Carolina and has helped himself so much on and off the field. And his best football is still in front of him as well. I saw he was named today a semi-finalist for the Bednarik Award trophy, which is awesome as well. So really happy for him and all these guys. I mean, you just look at all these transfers that have come in and what they've been able to do for us is pretty cool. Torricelli Simpkins coming in from North Carolina Central, and he's the SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week, or Rocket, or Kyle. So all that.
obviously you just mentioned Torricelli Simpkins. How, in him receiving these national and SEC honors, how impressive you've been with what he's brought to that offensive line this year, both on and off the field, with the mentality he seems to bring?
Love it. I saw that. That's maybe another surprise for you in a good way, is that I knew Torricelli was a good player. I don't know if I knew that Torricelli had like the energy, competitive spirit that he has as well. I mean, just his mentality on the field. And he showed that when he got here in the wintertime, that, you know what, there's something different about this guy. I mean, you could see that in the weight room before we even went on the practice field back in March. Just the way he worked and his spirit that he carried himself with. And then to be able to, you know, see him have the production and the success that he's having on the field, it's really cool. The guy's just so grateful to be here and truly appreciates every day that he's in this building and a part of the program, and the way that he plays on the field, it shows.
Sorry, Jordan. Before the season started, when I was talking to Lenoris's dad, he basically said the most interesting thing about him was that he eats lemons whole, and he was having trouble just finding ways to talk about him outside of football. Obviously, he's very calm. He's very kind of steady with just the increased, obviously, playing, but just in the spotlight. Are you at all seeing him change, or is he kind of like Matt Saracen, where he just continues to be QB1, but he's slow and steady and doesn't really change his persona?
I think steady and just doesn't really change his persona. You know, he is who he is. I think he's very confident. I know he's very confident. He's very poised. He's a competitor, as I've talked to you guys about before. But I really haven't seen a change in him. You know, he's I don't know if outspoken is the word, but I think he's more willing to speak up in some ways. And you know, I'm on a group text with some of our like leaders and seniors, and yesterday the big discussion was uniforms, and Lenoris was voicing his displeasure with someone's uniform choice. And I don't know if he would have voiced his displeasure back in September, but he was willing to speak up and say that, no, I don't like that. Maybe that's part of the experience. I don't know. But as far as what I see, I go to those quarterback meetings pretty much every morning with Dow and Mike Shula and Dow Loggins and the quarterbacks, and he's the same guy in there. But I think he's just he's never comfortable, but I think he's very more at ease, maybe understanding the position when you're the starting quarterback in the SEC at a place like South Carolina, when you're the home state kid. That young man, that's a big responsibility, and he was dealing with that certainly at the beginning of the season. But I think he's really grown maybe more into that role and has a better handle on things. Not that he didn't before, but just has a better handle on it overall than he did.
You guys brought in a lot of transfers this past year, and a lot of them are starting from you. They're big school guys, small school guys. When you look at the transfer class you brought in, I guess it was 8 months ago, 9 months ago. Is there something that you learned from the guys who are now starting for you that you take into December?
Bring in good people, for sure, that love football, that want to buy into what we're about here, and trust our evaluations. I think it's easy, and I'm not talking about any school specifically, but I think a lot of schools it's easy. Ooh, Jordan from wherever, Ohio State just popped in the portal. Let's go get that guy. He'd be a great pickup for us. Get a transfer from a name school, top 5 school, Ohio State or whoever it might be, as opposed to just really sitting down and evaluating, like, can this guy really help us? Does he fit what we want? And we didn't have a lot of competition for Carlins Platel coming out of Assumption College a couple years ago. We didn't have a lot of competition for Torricelli Simpkins coming out of North Carolina Central. We didn't have a lot of competition for Demetrius Knight coming out of Charlotte. But all 3 of those guys have or will be playing in the NFL. And it's because, speaking to Torricelli and D Knight specifically, because they're here with us now, they're great people. They aren't coming in here to try and get, pad their stats and basically rent a program for a year. They came in and they've bought into everything that we want this play, that we're about. We trusted our evaluation. We knew they were great people. We knew they had a chance to be really, really good players. They both love football. And when you bring in guys, and it's no different in high school recruiting, when you bring in people that are about the right stuff, that are good people, high character young men that love football, love being a part of a team, and you trust your evaluation and don't worry about the pushback that, man, their signing class, excuse my language, their signing class sucks because they signed this guy from North Carolina Central or Charlotte. What are we doing? Why didn't we go get these guys from all these Power 4 schools as well? Well, maybe because those Power 4 guys aren't as good of players as these guys from the group of 5, and we evaluated them and think that guy's better. Or maybe we brought this guy in from a Power 4 school and we brought him in here on a 24-hour visit, and we knew pretty quickly he ain't going to fit what this program's about, because he truly does want to come here and just rent a football program for a year and whatnot, make some NIL money and move on. And we ain't about that. I mean, I'm not saying NIL's not a part of it, because it is, but making sure that guys are choosing South Carolina for the right reasons. So we did that with those guys. And we're not perfect. I mean, there's some guys that we brought in the portal that aren't here anymore and went the other direction, and we wish them well. But we've been really successful with the portal because of the kind of people that we bring in, and we trust our evaluations, and we really don't care where you came from. It's can you help us, and that's what those guys have been able to do.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
All righty. Thank y'all.
Shane Beamer meeting with the media like he does every Tuesday, and you can hear it right here on 107.5 The Game, sponsored by Crescent Construction. We'll come back. Some thoughts on what Shane just said is next on the halftime show. Football in the 1 o'clock hour. Sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors with Terry Ford and Tyler Head here on The Game. What we're talking about is Shane Beamer's presser just wrapped up here on 107.5, the game in Columbia. And look, I thought a couple of interesting answers that Shane had. One, Tyler, going back to, him talking about how they use the portal. And I thought, one thing I like about Shane is he will be honest. And he said, look, I didn't think Kyle Kennard was going to be this good. I didn't think Torrelli Simpkins was going to be this good. We thought they were going to be good, but wow. Look, if you go back and look at all those preseason transfer portal rankings in the country of players, you weren't seeing top 20 ranked transfers and see Kyle Kennard's name.
No, and when you go back and look, and Beamer referenced it there, that game against Wake Forest that he had, that was half of his sacks last year. 8 sacks, 4 of them came in one game. Great single game performance, but consistently throughout the entire season, he was not, man, this guy's a monster type of thing. And, we were intrigued by him. Certainly like, okay, this is a guy that can probably move the needle forward coming off the edge for South Carolina, but nobody saw this coming.
No, gosh, no, not at all. Now, how much of it is you have a tandem of Dylan Stewart and Kyle Kennard, and how much have they helped each other? A lot.
Probably.
Because you can't just double one, because if you decide you're going to double one or slide toward one or, put a focus on one, the other's going to destroy you.
Right.
But what Kyle Kennard's done this year, and that was, hey, first sack, ODU, man, right off the gate.
Yep.
Kyle Kennard's been fabulous.
And it's, when it comes to the portal, very much like we do with high school recruiting, where we get very hung up on star ratings, right? Hey, this guy was 4-star, 5-star, and we have the name for the 3-star mafia of people that are sick of seeing South Carolina sign 3 stars. Oh, what's this guy going to end up being? Well, you never know, because it's about what they do at this level, not what they did at the last level. It's kind of the same thing when it comes to transfer portal. And some of it does revolve around star ratings. Hey, this guy didn't play, but he was a 5-star coming out of high school or whatever it may be. And I think we also look at the school that they came from. I can guarantee you, if you polled most of the people in the offseason, there are more people that were excited about Monkel Goodwine coming from Alabama than Kyle Kennard, because it's Alabama. Well, he must be good. 4-star guy, and he didn't really play a whole lot, but he was behind NFL talent on the defensive line. So he must be great. And he's done fine in the role that he's played, but Kennard's obviously been the superstar of the transfer portal class. So you have to kind of peel away the layers of what school they went to, what the star rating was out of high school, all this kind of stuff, and see what they mean as far as an individual fit with this program. And again, Kennard has been a perfect fit for here.
Well, I think fit is the right word, is, skill set. His skill set. Does it fit the defense that you're running or the system of defense you're running? And obviously, Shane is big on culture. And do you fit in the culture? You're not just coming here to get some NIL dough on your way to the NFL. You actually want to help South Carolina win games, and you want to help set a good culture and set leadership and all that other stuff. And like Demetrius Knight, I mean, he showed up. I remember reading about Knight at Charlotte, and I just read that he was fast and athletic.
Yep.
You looked at his stats and you went, okay, how's that going to translate to the SEC? We don't know, but read that he was fast and athletic. And that was like, oh, good. They need athleticism in the linebacker room. They need speed. Did I see this coming?
No.
Wow. No. And just like Kennard, didn't see that coming. And it's one of those things where, like you said, you got to take away, okay, well, this guy's coming from Bama, or A.J. Parks is coming in from Oklahoma. He must be good. Well, he's been hurt.
Hadn't seen him.
He's been hurt. You have to always take a step back and see, A, what are they bringing to the table? And how's it going to translate to the SEC? And Torrelli Simpkins. I mean, you think it's a big step from Charlotte to the SEC? Look where Torrelli Simpkins came from to come to the SEC. And Simpkins has been the best offensive lineman South Carolina's had all year. And like you said, we look at A.J. Parks, Oklahoma. Oh, Torrelli Simpkins, where?
There's a Central North Carolina.
I didn't know that. So I just think that, how does a player, what traits when evaluating and scouting does the coaching staff see that can say, you know what, that guy's going to thrive in our systems? And that's where I give Shane and his coaching staff credit. And Shane said it, they're not perfect. They're going to miss on guys every now and then. It just happens.
Sure.
You're never going to be perfect in the portal, ever. But this year, the portal was South Carolina's friend. There's no doubt, with Kennard and Knight and Rocket. I mean, and Simpkins. You added guys who stepped into a troubled area on your football team and helped it get better. Now, the wide receiver room, no one's jumped out and popped like Rocket or Kennard or Knight. But, like you'll see, Larvadan had a couple catches on Saturday, and Jacobs will make a catch every now and then. Jared Brown had the big 51-yard catch and run off of the play that Lenore Sellers made. We see moments of it and glimpses of it, but there hasn't been a consistent game-to-game force at wide receiver for them this year.
Yeah, and thankfully, Josh Simons kind of emerged as that number one target in the passing game at tight end, a former transfer himself coming over from Western Kentucky a couple of years ago. So again, you have that established guy there, though he has been here for 2 years. So again, it's very much like high school recruiting. Be very hit or miss. There's guys that you think are going to be sure things that don't end up being anything, and guys that you never would have expected that end up being superstars. So you have to take it all with a grain of salt. You certainly look at the upsides for everybody, but you don't hang your hat just because of the brand name that it came from or the star rating attached to them.
No, or even, because I think it's a legitimate conversation. How is this guy, if he's from a group of 5 school or a lower affiliation, how is he going to, how's he going to do in the SEC?
Right.
When you're playing against a lot of future pros. And obviously, Shane and the staff take that into consideration. How does either his skill set or his physical attributes, how are they going to play out on Saturdays in the SEC? And we just gave you the key guys who have really helped this football team from the transfer portal get this thing turned back around the right direction. It's a halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. Coming up in what's trending at 2, around 2:15, Elijah Campbell, who's covering the presser right now, for us, will pop in, give us his thoughts on what Shane had to say. Again, that's about 2:15 on what's trending at 2 here on the game. Again, busy tonight, 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock tip. South Carolina and Towson right here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia and 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. Again, men's basketball 101, Lamont and his crew, and they will be hosting Towson tonight here on the game. And Thursday, 9 to noon, Gamecock Central taking over Gold Line Framing, 511 12th Street in West Columbia with Tyler and Wes and Chris. Again, that is 9 to noon on Thursday right here on the game. Firehouse Sub text the hour, 803-404-6100. That's coming up next as we do football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. Time for our Firehouse Up text of the hour at 803-404-6100, and then we'll swing back to our Twitter X poll as well. Let's start off with the old Firehouse Up text of the hour.
Mike C. weighs in and very simply says, Drinkwitz has a very punchable face.
Well, I don't disagree.
We agree.
I think, I know Preston agrees.
And that's what adds more desire to this, because it's not just the fact that he's gotten the best of you since he's been at Missouri. He got the best of you when he was at App State. He's just annoying, right? Like, if he was Billy Napier and up there and drawing on and putting you to sleep, like, yeah, you want to beat him, but he doesn't have that extra layer of juice to it. But this guy, you want to beat him. You want to step on him. You want to break his glasses. You want to take his girlfriend. You want to take his car. You want to go all out.
You want to humiliate him as you beat him.
Yes, you want him to cry.
And you want to, for lack of a better term, put him in the place you think he deserves to be in.
Exactly, because these past 2 years, he's had this cockiness about him because they've been winning, and hey, credit to them, rightfully so, to where he can have his zingers at press conferences and he can say off-the-cuff things. We stand on business, Josh, like dopey things like that. But they're winning. It's hard to argue with them when they're winning. But if you beat them into submission like A&M did and like Alabama did, well, he's not going to have so much to say after that. You remember in the week after those games, didn't say a whole lot. No little quips coming out of those pressers.
Nope. And after he stumbled and bumbled into that win over Oklahoma last Saturday, he had the goofy thing we played. Grab it again. His little post-game 10-second little rant he did to the sideline reporter. After, again, they stumbled and bumbled their way to beating Oklahoma. Really, Oklahoma beat Oklahoma.
Here we go.
Is that fair?
What does this do for your football team moving forward? I know you know about your team. You know about their demeanor. What does this do for you moving forward from now?
It gives us another win, keeps us in the playoff hunt. That's right, I said it, playoff hunt. M-I-Z.
M-I-Z.
Well, you know what you can do Saturday? You can crush those playoff hopes.
It'll be over.
It'll be over.
It'll be absolutely over. So, and then we know there's M-I-Z ridiculousness. So, yeah. Oh, Texter, you're exactly right. Punchable face.
Very.
Mm-hmm. You know, at the gym, they have one of those heavy bags in one of the rooms. Put his face on it. People would line up probably to use that heavy bag. Just saying. Twitter X poll really quick. Poll question of the day. Now that the Gamecocks are bowl eligible, where would you want to go? You're going. You are actually going bowl week. Where would you want to go and see them play if you could in a bowl game? The four choices, obviously, ReliaQuest Bowl in Tampa. We've heard about that one as a rumor. Music City Bowl in Nashville. Vegas Bowl that doesn't have as much traction as it used to, but still that's out there. And for some reason, the Texas Bowl is still a thing in Houston.
Now, have you been to all these cities that we're putting up here?
I've not been to Vegas. I told you. I've not been to Vegas.
But you've been to Houston, Nashville, and Tampa?
No, I've not been. See, Nashville's one of my bucket lists.
Okay.
I've been to Tampa, been to Houston.
What's the Tampa vibe?
Tampa's got a vibe.
It's got a good vibe.
Ain't gonna lie.
Is it all like retired people?
No. You get past that layer.
Okay.
There's a vibe in Tampa.
See, I was talking about this with Wes earlier. The farthest south I've ever been is Orlando. I've never traveled past that.
Yeah, but you've been to Orlando 142 times.
No, I've not, actually.
That's your wife.
That's my wife. I've been 3 times to Orlando in my life.
Okay.
All Disney related.
She loves that place, man.
She does. Yes, she does.
I remember when you were getting married.
If they end up in the ReliaQuest Bowl and we were allowed to go to Tampa, she'd be tagging along and we'd be stopping at Disney.
Orlando.
On the way there or on the way back, one of the ways.
All right, Gamecocks game day. Terry Ford here in Tampa and in Orlando.
Yes, I have my Mickey ears on, the whole 9 yards.
Tyler Head. Tampa, once you get past the seniors, there's some fun in Tampa to find.
Okay. Well, if the gracious folks at our company would like to fund a trip for us, I wouldn't be opposed.
I lived in Houston for a year, working. I like Houston's very underrated. I liked Houston. There are people who don't particularly care for Houston or Dallas at all.
Okay.
I liked Houston. I thought Houston was fun. I had a good time for my year in Houston. Vegas leads away at 35%, Nashville at 31%, Tampa has fallen to 28%, Houston's at 7%. Like I said, very underrated city. No, everybody rather go, and I get it. I'd rather go to those 3 places too. If I was going to go hang out and party for a bowl week, I'd rather be in Nashville or Vegas or even Tampa over Houston. I get it.
The Texas Bowl just doesn't have any pizzazz to it.
No.
Like And the ReliaQuest Bowl was a lot funner when it was the Outback Bowl because you had the Outback theme to it. But, you're in Tampa. It's sunny and 75 degrees on December 31st or whenever the game is played. So I can understand the wanting, and I guess from a feasibility standpoint, if fans want to travel, going to Tampa is a lot easier than going to Houston.
Yes.
So there's that too.
Yes. There's 2 airports in Houston. Totally get you confused.
Do I want to go all the way halfway across the country to watch a bowl game that, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't mean a whole lot? That my favorite player is probably going to opt out of.
Scary say. The opt-outs on the defensive side of the ball for South Carolina's bowl game are going to be many.
And hey,
go get them.
Go, absolutely, dude.
I'm
not going to sit here and argue with you.
I mean, if you want to play, hey, God love you. Go
Sure.
play. That's your choice. But if you decide to opt out, all right.
Yeah. Thank you for what you've done.
That's all right. We appreciate you very much.
Kennard, Eamon
Knight.
If Debo wants to opt out, go for it.
You. I totally get you.
We'll take a look at what J.R. Johnson and David Busey and all these guys are going to look like going forward.
That's fine. Nothing wrong with that at all. Here's a question that just hit me. If it is a Texas Bowl type situation, do you play Dylan Stewart?
Ooh, good question. Does Dylan Stewart want to play? It's maybe the better question.
Just saying. Just throwing that one out there. All right. What's trending at 2? Obviously, Elijah Campbell's going to jump in with us and give us his thoughts on the Shane Beamer presser. Also, some ridiculousness post-game or sitting on the bench coming from the Georgia side after the lost Ole Miss we're going to get to. Fans. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry, Gamecock Traditions here on the game. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, and our buddy Elijah Campbell coming over from the Shane Beamer presser, where Shane spoke to the media like he does every Tuesday at 1 o'clock. You know what we're going to do real quick because, Tyler's a busy man.
I'm going to switch the camera around. Now for the folks that are watching on YouTube, they'll get like a little bit of motion sickness.
Oh, I think I got to slide over this way.
Here we go.
Oh, the other way. Go one way or the other. There you go. Go that way.
There it is.
Keep going. Keep going, baby.
They don't call him Terry Kubrick for
That's
nothing.
right. Keep going. Keep going. Keep
I think this
going.
is all the.
Yeah, you know what? That's good enough.
That thing just won't stay in its place. Constantly false starting is that camera. It will not stay in one spot.
Jumping off sides like
maybe
the
we just
Commanders.
imagine Elijah's there. How about that?
Oh, he's there now.
That's
we
right.
did it.
I'm here in spirit.
We did it. There we go.
Maybe jack up your chair a little bit. Give yourself a few inches
pretend you're
there.
Bill
That might
Gunner.
help.
Pretend you're Bill Gunner.
10-time Bill Gunner.
Anyway.
He does have the highest chair of anybody that sits.
Well, and anyone who's seen or met Bill, they know why. Anyway, we're going to put phone books on it for tomorrow. All right, so you're hanging out there with Shane at the presser. First of all, someone missed to give the injury report from Dr. Shane Beamer.
Yes, he said that they feel really confident and really great about everybody that did not finish the game on Saturday to be able to participate. So DQ Smith, Josiah Thompson, Tonka Hemingway, even though Tonka came back and played with his injury. They feel pretty good about everybody that's coming back.
I'll say this. I know it wasn't that many snaps, and we haven't really dug into this very deeply here, but Tree Babalati played well.
He was awesome.
At left tackle. He had, 80 blocking grade.
Highest run block and pass block grade on the team.
And if you watch that, if you forget Pro Football Focus, but if you watch that with your eyes, you saw Tree do a lot of winning at left tackle on Saturday. So he did a nice job.
2 of the 3 touchdowns from Rocket. I firmly believe Trey had like half of what I would divvy up credit for offensive line, scores. I mean, he was involved in scoring plays, and played really, really well. He was awesome.
Yeah. Watching that game, I'm like, wow, he's doing some nice work. Then I saw the grades from Pro Football Focus. I'm like, wow, he's even better than I thought. So nice fill-in for Josiah Thompson was Trey. What's that, his second game of the year?
Yeah, second game.
So he's still got the red shirt if need be.
If need be. But at this point, he played so well, are there situations where if Josiah starts struggling in a game you just put him in there
to be fair, Josiah was struggling before he got hurt again on Saturday. I mean, he's a freshman. We knew he was going to struggle.
Yeah.
And I think Shane and company is all in on Josiah Thompson because, again, we've talked about it before.
As they should be.
Kellen Proctor at Alabama struggled just like Josiah Thompson is this year. And Proctor, his sophomore year, one of the best left tackles in the country.
That's a hard position to play, especially in a league
at 18.
Especially at 18 in this league where you are playing NFL edge rushers each and every Saturday afternoon. It is tough, man. It's so hard. He shows glimpses, enough glimpses to where you feel good about continuing to give him the reps, especially now that the offense is improving a little bit. The rest of the offensive line is getting really good. He can get good with them. So it's a interesting balance that he has to strike now at that left tackle position when Tree comes in there, plays the way he did against Vanderbilt. If the first half Josiah isn't 100% and playing well, then you may have to think about just burning the red shirt in general for Tree to get him those snaps for the rest of the season.
And Cason Henry was good in pass protection on Saturday. Still struggled in his run blocking. But Cason Henry's had issues at right tackle. I know, look, left tackle and right tackle is a whole different animal. And people go, well, what's the difference? Oh, it's the complete opposite of everything.
Yeah.
How you do everything from playing left to right tackle. So, I mean, how much has Tree played any right tackle in practice? I don't know.
It's a really good question. It would be a totally unknown variable that you throw in there at potentially a really important game.
Yeah, so we'll see. All right, thoughts from listening to Shane there at the presser? What did you take away from it?
Yeah, mostly a lot of it is he was talking a lot about first we'll start with Missouri. I asked him about the receivers because really you look at this Missouri team, the only thing that I think would give South Carolina a lot of trouble is just it's not that just Luther Burden, because Luther Burden's all world, right? That guy's going to be an NFL wide receiver and he'll be a damn good one too. But Theo Weiss is having a great year, took over that Oklahoma game. on Saturday. Mookie Cooper is a fantastic wide receiver. Like, they just have a ton of depth at that receiver position. And he mostly just said, like, we're just going to have to really limit yards after catch. It's going to be one of those games where you have to tackle really well in the secondary. And we've seen mixed results from the secondary at times. Early in the season, I felt like that was maybe a weakness of the secondary was tackling. I thought it bit them in the rear against LSU at times. But a lot of times this year, too, they haven't had a lot of issues with tackling at all. I feel like a lot of those guys, Vicari Swain's gotten a lot better. Judge Collier, I think, has gotten better, by leaps and bounds.
I think Fortune's got better, too. I mean, there was a little struggle earlier in the year with Fortune as well, and his tackling has stepped up. I'll tell you the other thing, too, is when you bring up the tackling, because I think Missouri's going to get the ball out quick. Because they want yak yards from their wide receivers. So it's not only the DBs, but Demetrius Knight, who's played with an anger for the last month that it's been fun to watch. Adebo, Bam Martin Scott, the linebackers that are going to be on the field when Missouri's getting that thing out quick.
Can they swarm to the ball?
Can they swarm to the ball and help out the defensive backs? But you're right. You can't have 17 missed tackles like you did against LSU.
Yeah. And then in terms of preparing for the quarterback, too, I think Drew Pine and Brady Cook, I still have no idea if Brady Cook will be back for this. I think it's safe to assume Drew Pine will probably start the game, but the offense isn't going to change at all. We've had a lot of instances this year where South Carolina is preparing to play a team that has used multiple quarterbacks, and in one instance, like with Oklahoma, for example, Jackson Arnold has a different skill set than Michael Hawkins, and so you'd have to prepare for two different things. Texas A&M, the offense looks dramatically different when Connor Wegman was the quarterback as opposed to Marcel Reed being the quarterback, right? Like, it's like a completely different offense. This one doesn't change at all, really, and I found it really interesting too for him to say that, and they'll just prepare for what they do on offense. Another thing that was interesting too. He was asked about the struggles they've had against Missouri, and Eli Drinkwitz coached teams at Missouri. It's been last year was a beatdown. They came here in 2022, and that was an all-around ugly game. So he was asked about that today too, and he said the theme versus Missouri over the last few years, they got their butts kicked physically. They gave up more sacks than they were able to create against them. They gave up way more rushing yards than they were able to gain against Missouri. So he says really the biggest theme is they were so much more physical at the line of scrimmage. They do a lot of the things that they keep up with that they try to do to win football games, and they just haven't been able to do it. And I think last year was one of those, look, Spencer Rattler was mauled in that game last year. They just weren't able to move the ball past the 25, 30 yard line. I think they scored 12 points last year, settled them all on field goals, and I don't think they were comfortable enough to try to go for it on fourth down or maybe go for it on fourth and goal or anything like that, because they just didn't trust Spencer to be upright enough, because the offensive line, that was peak South Carolina offensive line struggles.
That was tough, man, wasn't it? That was tough.
And then they just weren't as good in the run game in terms of defense and offense. They couldn't run the ball last year, obviously, if your offensive line's not very good. Keeping the quarterback protected is one big chore, and then running the ball on anybody is going to be another big chore. So I think that's one thing the last few years that Shane has seen as a theme in the Missouri games that they've lost. But also, when you take that into account with what he says, and if you believe him, this year should be significantly different, because I think South Carolina, not even a hot take here, will have more sacks in this game than Missouri will. Lenore Sellers hadn't been sacked in 2 games, right? Drew Pine and Brady Cook will never be accused of being, speedsters, but they're crafty at getting out of the pocket, at least when they need to. But I have a feeling that whoever is taking snaps from Missouri at quarterback will get sacked at least twice, just because of how good this pass rush is. And then in terms of the run game, Carolina's had their 2 best run games of the year outside of Akron. Right. I mean, the 2 best against teams, in their conference, the 2 best games were these last 2 weeks, where they're running well over 200 yards in these games. And Missouri is having, surprisingly, a down year running the ball. They brought in 2 transfers who were very productive guys. Yeah, 2 guys that were incredibly productive at the group of 5 level and brought back a lot of offensive linemen from last year's team who opened up, who parted the Red Sea, basically, for Cody Schrader to run through for an entire season en route to being an All-American. But that's not really materialized this year. So I have a really good feeling that in those 2 things, in terms of rush yard ratio and sack ratio, South Carolina should win. And if that's the case, then this is a perfect way to talk yourself into Carolina flipping the script on Missouri this year as opposed to what's happened the last few.
Elijah Campbell hanging out with us, who was over covering the Shane Beamer presser that was 1 o'clock here on the game in Columbia, Florence, and Myrtle Beach. Sacks given up, Missouri's 10th in the conference, and so below average in sacks given up. And obviously South Carolina, they sack quarterbacks every now and then.
That's kind of their thing.
Yeah, it's their thing. Ask our boy Pavia about the South Carolina defense.
I wonder how he felt Sunday morning when he woke up. It's not good. When I say I wonder, it's like I would like to hear a description from him. I don't want to feel what he felt because he was down a lot. He got hit a lot.
Ready? I'm figuring out this phone call by Diego Pavia Sunday morning. Yeah, 911, can you take me to my bathroom, please? I can't move.
I just need some assistance.
I need some help. Now, yards before contact, which is a stat I love in the run game.
Yes.
Missouri 2.18. It's not terrible. It's not great. It's all right. Noel's been hurt a bunch, to be fair. When he's been on the field, he's been productive. He just hasn't been available. And they're not explosive on offense this year, especially in the passing game, which makes zero sense.
Yeah.
You brought it up with Burden and Weiss, and you had Cook back, and the offensive line brought back people. And they have been not clicking down the field with explosives in their passing game at all.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see why that is. I would like to go back and watch a lot of the defenses against Missouri just to see what it is that they're doing. Because, look, you can't really play a nickel corner against Luther Burden man-to-man because he's just going to get torched, right? I don't know if there's a nickel corner in this conference that can keep Luther Burden in front of them. Right. He's just that fast and that good. And that's one thing Shane said today when I asked him about this Missouri receiving core. Is they're going to get their catches. You're not going to go an entire game with Theo Weiss and Luther Burden having donuts in the reception column. Pretty much impossible because they're really good at finding ways just to get them the ball. But maybe the difference between this year and last year is just that they're not running all over everybody. Teams have figured out schemes to be able to keep their players in front of them to where the 7-yard Luther Burden, hitch isn't turning into a 37-yarder because he's picking up 30 after the catch because he's making somebody miss and he's just outrunning a convoy of people. So that's going to be a big thing too, is just to be able to at least keep in front of them and minimize the damage because those guys are going to find themselves to be open at certain points. But can you just at least minimize what they do after?
A couple things that's really weird about Missouri. Pass efficiency from their quarterback room, next to last in the SEC. Defensive pass efficiency, below average. Yards per rush defensively, below average. Rushing defense, below average. Yards per rush, below average. Everything about their offense this year has been below average, which is so weird compared to what that offense was last year with mostly a lot of the same pieces except Schrader.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very bizarre.
And that offensive line was awesome for Schrader last year. I mean, that's really one of the things you can point to. So that was the reason why they were so good was because they could just run on everybody. But you've seen a natural regression from Brady Cook. A lot of people coming into the year had him as like a top 3 quarterback in this league. And I'm like, I like him, but I don't know if he's top 3. He's a really solid quarterback, but I think there's been some regression to the mean, and it's not cost them a bunch of games this year. But I think that's the reason. I think the lack of production from that quarterback room compared to last year is the reason they got killed by A&M and Alabama.
You'll be back hanging out with Jay?
That's right. 3
You
to 6.
sure?
If you guys can keep me in the building, I'm sneaky.
You are.
I'm crafty.
You're deceptively quick and crafty. What was it to Tyler? He's a gamer. He's a gamer.
He's slippery.
Slippery.
Real lunch pail guy.
Yeah, that's right. 3 to 6. Thanks for coming in and hanging out with us, my man. Elijah Campbell covering the Shane Beamer presser. We'll get back and we'll continue on what's trending at 2. When you lose a game like Georgia did, things get a little kooky. We'll get into that next on the Halftime Show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry here on The Game. 803-875-MENS, the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Just make that phone call. You're not feeling right. You're not feeling like you. You're not feeling like the young version of you. You don't have any, you got no what my uncle would call get up and go. You got no drive in life. You just all around. You're weaker at the gym. You don't sleep. You can't remember anything. So I'm going to say the number again, 803-875-MENS, in case you just forgotten it. Just call the Men's Clinic. A free confidential consultation with the staff. If Dr. Dan and the crew think you might just have low testosterone and that's what's hurting you, they'll do some lab work. If it comes back low T, guess what? They'll put you on a program. This is specifically designed for you to get you to feeling like you again. 803-875-MENS. It's a Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Quit worrying about yourself. Go find out what's up. It might be low testosterone. Give them a call. Halftime show, What's Trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, we were hanging up until 3 here on the game, then the postgame show will take over. Okay, so Georgia gets manhandled by Ole Miss. Yes, I said manhandled by Ole Miss, something that does not happen to Georgia. Something that usually happens to Ole Miss, to be fair. And when these things happen, folks go a little sideways. Now, one of these things I get to a point. The other one is just stupid and ridiculous and asinine. All right, Georgia defensive back Jake Pope was seen celebrating on the field with some folks after Georgia was beaten by Ole Miss. You're saying, but Terry, Jake Pope plays for Georgia. Why is he celebrating? Well, it sure looked like he was celebrating as he was jumping up and down with some people on the field. And Kirby Smart, in the post-game presser, or I guess Monday or whenever Kirby was asked about it.
It was yesterday.
Quote from Kirby Smart was, hey, he's an idiot. It was just stupid. Didn't see it until today, and Jake's embarrassed. He's upset. And then Kirby Smart explained it was obviously a childhood friend of his. They grew up and played together at Buford because, again, Jake Pope is from Mississippi. And Kirby said it wasn't real smart and things of that nature, and it was a bad look. Let's be honest. You're on the field with some folks who are on the field celebrating an Ole Miss win. You're jumping up and down, smiling and giggling. I get it. I get that one.
The optics are bad.
The optics are terrible. But the second one is downright stupid. You know where I'm going for this one, right?
Go ahead.
The Carson Beck.
Oh, yeah.
So Carson Beck comes off the field. Again, he's been getting pulverized all day. Sits down on the bench, and he looks like obviously he's down. Jaden Rashada sits down next to him, says something. Beck starts smiling or giggling or laughing. And people who really have no life decide that Carson Beck is not serious about winning. And this is where social media needs to almost be burned to the ground right here. It took the parents of Carson Beck and Jaden Rashada to put out posts on social media about this situation. Basically, Rashada said something to Beck to pump him, make him feel good, make him smile, make him laugh.
Sure.
Because he obviously was not in a very good place and not in a very good mood. And so, again, these folks on social media who, I'm going to stop now and so I'm going to say a lot of really bad stuff. Folks on social media who need to, rearrange their priorities. Did you like how I did that?
Yeah, well, the bad thing is I know a lot of these people on this social media that are saying these things about Carson Beck that you should have no joy whatsoever because of how crappy you played on Saturday, which it was a bad game all around for this Georgia team. But somebody smiling on the bench is not the reason to execute them.
But the other part, too, is once he sits down, he's not smiling. Rashada says something to him to kind of make him laugh or make him feel better. And I want to switch to this. Let's go to life.
Yeah.
How many times in life are you down? Something goes wrong. Something goes sideways. And your buddy comes up to you, and we call it gallows humor. And he says something to you to make you smile because he knows you're down.
Yeah.
How many times has that happened in life? A ton. Yeah. That's all that was on Saturday.
Sure.
That was it. And again, people who need to rearrange their priorities in life, maybe get off the internet and off social media.
Some people are losers that spend their entire day just typing things on social media and never show their face in reality in front of these people, and that's what you get.
Yeah, and it's like here's the saddest part of all this to me. Again, I've said this before. You know how many people have an active Twitter account in this country, Tyler?
Millions.
22%.
Yeah.
Nowhere near what a Facebook is or an Instagram is or any of that stuff. And this thing called the Twitter mob is so silly because 2 in 10 people roughly are even giving a bleep about Twitter. And we make this like this is the world. No, it's not.
Yeah.
But so we react to it instead of ignoring it. And that's the sad part of it. And you have to go on social media, on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and have to basically take up for your kids is insane. It just is insane. I get the Pope thing. Like you said, the look was terrible. The look was bad. And really, the lack of understanding of the moment is kind of concerning.
Sure.
But the thing with Carson Beck was dumb. And I'll say this. I'm not going to say this about college players. I'm going to say this about professional athletes. the young, crazy version of me, the crazy fancy. I used to be these people, Tyler.
Sure.
I used to be these nutcase. If they had social media when I was a nutcase fan, I'd have been as bad as all these wackadoodles.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Well, it's the same type of people that we'll see, in the offseason, a coach post a picture at Disney World coming off of a losing season. What are you doing at Disney World?
Right.
You guys lost last
You
year.
should be watching film.
Grinding tape 25 hours a day, 8 days a week. What's wrong with you?
Divorce your wife.
Exactly.
Get rid of those kids.
You don't need a family.
Well, I used to when I was a crazy fan before therapy and medication, which is just Jack Daniels, Tennessee honey. I used to hate to see a game where my favorite football team would go across the field and start smiling and talking to the other guys from the other team.
Sure.
I'm like, what are you doing? This is the enemy. They just beat us. You should be over there smiling and hugging and laughing. What's wrong with you? And then you start to realize something with professional athletes. It's a job. It's J-O-B. And when the job is over for the day, they walk across the field to see the other guys. Some of them they know, they played ball with, they've been friends with. You know what they do? Hey, man, what's up? Blah, 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 blah. How's a family? Blah, 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 blah. Been to any good places lately to throw down? Blah, blah, blah. And so, do you ever remember the Looney Tunes cartoon when, was it the sheepdog or whatever is protecting the sheep from the whatever it was, the coyote or
Yeah.
And at the end, and they go punch out, and what do they do? Hey, let's go get a beer.
Yeah.
Their job is over for the day, and these professional athletes are now talking to their friends that play for the other team.
Right.
And once I understood that, and again with therapy and medication, it never bothered me again. But that's the same mindset of these fans that are screaming about Carson Beck. How dare you smile? You're not allowed to smile till you win again.
Yep.
Because you know what? I always try to tell fans about professional athletes. The crazy level 1 fan that I used to be, you care more than they do. Run that through your head. You care more than they do, and that's not healthy. When you care more than the people getting paid to do it, who have been out there, spitting and sweating and bleeding for 3 hours, and now the game's over and they're talking to their buddy that they played with 3 years ago on another team, and you're mad because they're smiling at each other, maybe it's time to stop watching sports and move on to another hobby, like miniature golf or something.
I'd say so.
So, I get the Jake Pope, but the Carson Beck thing was so out of line. It was just like, really? Really? And the fact that you have to stand up for your kids on social media is just embarrassing. Not embarrassing for them, embarrassing for us. It really is.
Yeah.
All right. Greatest day in the history of the world is coming up next. What's today, the 12th?
Yes, that's
November
correct.
12th is the greatest day in the history of the world. That's coming up next here on the Halftime Show on the Game. Oh, greatest day in the history of the world is November 12th. Terry Ford Tyler had halftime show on the game. We'll get back to Shane Beamer talking about his weekly presser that just popped at 1 o'clock. But right now, we're taking a look at the greatest day in the history of the world. On this day in 1892, we got a juicy one here, my friend.
Oh, boy.
Do you know the name of the first professional football player? The first football player who ever got paid to play football?
I do not.
I can't believe you don't remember William Pudge Heffelfinger. I love the name.
That, if you ask me to think of like a stereotypical 1800s name,
yes,
that's about what I'm thinking.
Yes. Heffelfinger, I can't even say it with a straight face. Heffelfinger was paid $500 to play for the Allegheny Athletic Association against the Pittsburgh Athletic Association. Heffelfinger returned a fumble for a touchdown in Allegheny's 4-0 win. Now, Heffelfinger's an interesting dude. 3-time All-American at Yale, played guard, was looked at as the best player in America. He played up until 1892 at Yale. 1888 to 1891 at Yale. Eventually, this whole thing about getting paid professionally, he had played amateur football for the Chicago Athletic Association, which he was compensated with, quote-unquote, double expenses, which was a common practice at the time, according to Wikipedia, which is never wrong.
Okay.
All right, so these two Pittsburgh teams, Allegheny Athletic Association and Pittsburgh Athletic Club, had a heated rivalry. Both were looking to gain an advantage. Now, Pittsburgh Athletic Club offered him $250, which was the equivalent to $8,500 back in the late 1800s. But he felt that wasn't enough to jeopardize his amateur status, which, remember, amateur status was a big deal back then. So the other squad said, okay, we'll double it to $500, which, again, that would be about $17,000.
Mm-hmm.
So old Heffelfinger's in, man. Now, the payment was not published or admitted at the time, and his presence set off quite a controversy because Pittsburgh Athletic Club protested the game, or protested the presence of a Chicago Athletic Association player, but they wanted one in their own lineup, but didn't get him, so they protested. So it got heated, man. It got heated.
And soon after, the NCAA was born.
Yes, to stop any of these guys from getting paid. Interesting part of this guy, he went on and coached, had a winning record as a coach for a few years. Then he went, ready, like always, went into the family business. It was a manufacturing business. They went bankrupt. Then he went into real estate. Also was in politics for a while. Was married to the same woman for 53 years.
Okay. Yeah. Much like our guy a while back, I forget who he was, got drafted in the NFL and said, nope, I'm going to go work in the factory.
Remember, set the record on the track in
That's
the 100.
Right.
Said, I'm working in the family factory.
Because Dad said, you need to quit playing that game. Go get yourself a real job.
Go get a real job, make some real money. Have a family. So, William Pudge Heffelfinger.
Do you think they called him Heffel or Finger?
Called him Pudge.
Pudge.
Hey, Finger.
There's a lot of good nickname options here.
Yeah, that's a thing. All right. One other old school. On this day in 1920, Judge Kennesaw Mountain Landis was hired as the Major League Baseball's first commissioner, which if you watch the movie 8 Men Out and know anything about the Black Sox scandal of 1919, where the Black Sox threw the World Series, you would know Kennesaw Mountain Landis was hired to basically drop the hammer on the Black Sox because the Black Sox weren't found guilty in Chicago because Chicago, if you remember history lessons, is corrupt.
You don't say.
What was that old saying about Chicago election? Was the JFK election vote early, vote often? Dead people were voting. So Chicago being a bit corrupt, they found these guys not guilty. They were all excited. Baseball said, oh, yeah, we're hiring a commissioner. We're hiring a real judge. Judge Kennesaw Mountain Landis said, you're all banned from baseball for life. That happened in 1920, Kennesaw Mountain Landis. One other interesting one, 1972, Don Shula becomes the first NFL coach to win 100 games in 10 seasons. Don Shula was a phenomenal head coach. It's just, he had a losing record in Super Bowls, but they won back-to-back Super Bowls. Remember, it's 1972 Dolphins, 17-0.
Mm-hmm.
It's never been done since. I think Don Shula gets pushed back a little bit as we move along because look what Belichick did.
Sure.
But Shula was a phenomenal head coach. Just excellent head coach. It's just, again, people go, oh, he won 2 Super Bowls. He lost more Super Bowls than he won. Yeah, but he got there.
Yeah, well, and he's won 2 more Super Bowls than a lot of head coaches in NFL history. So, and still today, and at some point, the Chiefs are going to fall.
Mm-hmm.
And what's left of the 72 Dolphins will break out the cigars and
the
continue,
champagne.
and once again celebrate that they're the only undefeated team ever.
It was kind of sad because Mercury Morris is one of the guys, and Mercury Morris just passed this year.
Yeah.
But Mercury Morris and a few of those other 72 Dolphins always got together, cracked the champagne and cigars as soon as everybody lost.
The Chiefs are this close. This close.
It's going to happen. You know and I know it. It's just a matter of time. It's going to happen. Another Dolphin note, 1995, Dan Marino breaks Fran Tarkenton's NFL career passing record of 47,003 yards. And again, Marino was phenomenal. Going back to the people that say, well, he never won a Super Bowl. Like, I can't talk to you. I can't have a conversation if that you're going to bring up the first thing on Dan Marino is he didn't win a Super Bowl. The defenses in Miami were abysmal. The running game was a joke. Basically, they had Dan Marino and the wide receivers.
Yeah, he's a better quarterback than Eli Manning, but Eli Manning has 2 Super Bowls, which is why people always hold him in a higher regard. But for what he did actually on the field, Marino was way better.
Oh, in a heartbeat. That's not even a fight, right?
And when you look at his numbers, very reflective of quarterback numbers today, but the era of football he played in, he shouldn't have been able to put up those kind of numbers because there was less rules tilted towards offense, but he was still balling out like that. I can't imagine what he'd look like in his prime in today's game.
Could you see the numbers Dan Marino would put up in today's NFL? Yeah, pretty much. Last one, 2019, former Houston Astro Major League pitcher Mike Fiers reveals that the Astros secretly stole signs via camera from visiting teams. Now, this started everything that ended up being, beating the trash can lids on the dugout. And look, again, you do something like that and you get caught, you deserve whatever you get. And the players should have been punished.
Mm-hmm.
They really should have been. But, of course, Major League Baseball gave them immunity so they could, get their testimony, which I always thought was weak.
Well,
but I get it.
And if you remember that 2020 season, because all this came to light before, or everything about it came to light, before that season started, they were getting set to be just ridiculed the entire year. We played a season without fans, and they kind of got off scot-free for the most part, because by the time the next season rolled around, that was old news.
Mm-hmm. The players really got away with, and other people paid.
Yeah.
My thing with Fiers was this. If this bothered you so much, why didn't you say something during that season? If you were so infuriated with these guys cheating the game, like you said in this, what was it, The Athletic, where that article came out?
I think so.
If it bothered you so bad, why didn't you rat him out to Major League Baseball during the season? Why didn't you get up in front of the media and say, my teammates are cheating and I hate it? You know why you didn't? Because you were playing for the Astros.
Yep.
And you weren't going to say anything because you were a really good team and you were looked at as a team that could win the World Series. And if it really bothered you, Mike Fiers, so bad, why didn't you take all that money you got from the postseason and give it to charity? Because it was dirty money. Cheating money. Mike Fiers did it because they didn't re-sign him and he was bitter and mad.
Well, no, he clearly stood up in the clubhouse and said, guys, we can't be doing this. This is cheating. And they beat him senseless so he wouldn't say anything.
And they scared him.
Yeah.
They scared him so bad. Yeah, that was my thing with Fiers. That was like the guy that goes and robs the bank with you, and then when he runs out of money, snitches you out.
Pretty much.
Mike Fiers, there are people that think, Mike Fiers is a hero. No. In the neighborhood I grew up in, you know what happens to Mike Fiers? Bad things happen to Mike Fiers.
Yep.
So in this day in 2019...
That's where you got to change your name and move out of state.
Quickly. All right, greatest day in the history of the world. We'll get back in here. Firehouse sub text the hour 803-404-6100. Maybe we'll yip with our buddy Jay Phillips and hand off the halftime show to the postgame show, which is always sponsored by our good buds at Little Pigs on Alpine Road. That's up next. Halftime show. Terry Ford and Tyler Head here on The Game.
Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. All right, and Terry Ford along with you on this Tuesday here on the game. About to hand things over to Jay and Elijah. But first, hit our Firehouse Subs text of the hour, 803-404-6100. We've been ridiculing Eli Drinkwitz, rightfully so, all day long. And we'll continue to do that all week long as hopefully we can punch him in the face on Saturday. Jeff weighs in and says, think we can all agree with that text. He's like your friend's little brother that spends all of his time bothering you. That is pretty apt.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Or that little nephew when you go to the family reunion. I'll tell you, what I used to, because again, my family, dad's side of the family, Hills in North Carolina around the Tennessee border, and I would go to the family reunion. I was like 18, 19 at the time. So I hated kids to begin with. Sometimes mine annoy me now, but anyway, so, and he was the Y kid.
Where everything is there's a follow-up to everything.
So what are you doing that for? Well, I'm doing it for this reason. Why? Because I need to do it. Why? Because I'm going to pull out your tongue. Eli Drinkwitz is the Y kid at my family reunions. No doubt.
Pretty much.
No doubt. And I said college football playoff. Miz.
So, let's go back to last year. And look, give them credit. Mm-hmm. They won the game. Yeah. But his little we stand on business, Josh, to Heupel, we're like, I don't even think Heupel heard him say, because he looked very confused, like, what'd you say? But Drinkwitz was already 30 yards in the other direction before he could comprehend what was said.
You know, he said it like it was such a shot that he took off real fast so Heupel couldn't slug him.
Which is the classic thing, because that guy's never won a fight.
Exactly. He wasn't exactly puffing his chest out.
Yeah. We stand on business, Josh, and he's gone, man.
And he doesn't even know what that means.
No.
He doesn't.
He
He's
heard
like,
one of his players say
cool.
it. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds pretty. I'm going to tell Heupel that if we win this game.
Can I be honest? I didn't know what it meant until he did it. I was like, what is stand on business? I had to say.
He's Googling it on his phone as the final seconds. Stand on business. Okay, yeah, I'm going to say
Urban Dictionary.
Yeah. I'm gonna nail this one on him. I'm going to get him. So, yes. We all, look, we're in the opinion business in sports radio, whether it's the hosts, guests, listeners, callers, texters, tweeters. I believe in Columbia, we've all basically rallied around, we agree that Eli Drinkwitz has a punchable face.
Yes, 1,000%.
I think we've all agreed. All right, Twitter X poll real quick. Elijah, this one's a little tighter than I thought.
But pretty even.
Poll question of the day. Now that the Gamecocks are bowl eligible, where would you as a fan, you get to go. Which one of these places do you want to spend the week to watch the Gamecocks? Tampa, Nashville, Vegas, Houston. That's 4 of the bowl sites that have been projected. You think Vegas would be a runaway or it'd be Vegas and Nashville? This thing's been changing during the show. 33% Vegas, 31% Tampa.
That one's a little high for me. Surprised to see that.
I've got a couple ideas I can't talk about on the radio. Nashville's at 30 right now. Nashville was running a hot second last hour. And poor Houston's at 6%. So far, 131 votes, 1,000 views.
See, Tampa would be a little surprising to me just because South Carolina's been to a lot of artists formerly known as the Outback Bowl. Mm-hmm. But apparently, it's a hit. It's a lot of fun.
But I think about it, like, if you're going to spend New Year's Eve somewhere, because the game will be on December 31st, like, place that's pretty tropical, mid-70s, not a bad gig. Like, Nashville, as fun as it is, it could be 45 degrees.
It can be cold. I have been to a Music City Bowl once, and it was in 2008. It was when Vanderbilt beat Boston College. I went with my stepdad, and it was maybe 17, 18 degrees outside. It was cold. It was miserable.
That is miserable.
It was so cold.
That's bad. That doesn't happen in Tampa.
But it was really cold. Yeah, you're not going to get that in Tampa.
Or Vegas.
Probably not even Houston.
No, trust me. I worked in Houston. I was trolling around in my shorts in December in Houston.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be like that. And, like, you're indoors in Houston, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
indoor stadium. It might be different if it was like that in
Houston's
Nashville.
not looked at as a cool place to go like a Vegas or a Nashville. Even Tampa. As I was telling Tyler, once you get past the nursing home set in Tampa, there's some fun stuff to do in Tampa.
I enjoy Tampa. I have vacations
Tampa
in that
can
area
be fun.
Frequently.
You can get into a lot of trouble in Tampa if you know where you're going.
And I like to get into trouble. and cities that I get to attend, I like
the
to get in
young
trouble.
version of me liked those places in Tampa. The older version of me, I'm going to go hang out with the seniors at the nursing home and knock off some tapioca pudding.
The current version of Terry can't hang, is what you're saying.
Oh, God, no, I can't hang. Watching you drink craft beers during SEC media days, I want to go take a nap.
By osmosis.
The most impressive thing with him, Tyler, is after we were over and he knocked down a few crafts at when we went out in our grand poobah of Cumulus Sports Bruce Gilbert was buying, and Elijah took advantage of it.
That's right.
And then Elijah, we go back to where we're staying, and Elijah's like, I got to walk over to the convenience store and grab. What'd you grab? Like a.
2 of those Miller Lite tall boys.
Yeah, he grabbed a couple tall boys.
Just to hang, just to kick it.
That's light work.
That's exactly. I wasn't even tired. I was like,
that was his beer appetizer.
I was like, I can knock back a few more right now.
It was quite impressive.
I can put him down.
It really was. I give you props. You could be dangerous in Tampa.
I mean, for at least the next few years of my life, I'm approaching age 30, which is once you become washed, and I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can dip into this bag as much anymore.
All right, so up next, post-game show Tuesdays with Ryan Brewer hanging out.
Bruise Day. Put 6 W's in Bruise Day.
Yeah, Ryan Brewer in with Jay and Elijah next here on the Halftime Show. Tyler, nice work. Do it again tomorrow.